Why are so many women so eager to be mauled by bears? There are a lot of videos floating around the internet right now where women are being asked, would you rather encounter a man or a bear when you're out in the woods?
Would you rather be stuck in a forest with a man or a bear?
Bear. Man is scary.
With a bear.
What I've heard about bears, they don't always attack you, right? So maybe a bear.
Probably a bear.
Oh, 100% a bear, which is like terrifying to say, but
Definitely a bear.
Now, being that this is the internet, there have been tons of arguments sparked by this. Neither side of the argument has really gotten to the essence of why women are answering the question this way. Women will say they'd rather encounter a bear, and then you get a lot of people saying, well, actually, this is what a bear attack looks like, and here are the odds of a bear attack, and here are the statistics of encountering a man who'd actually be dangerous in the woods. But what's interesting is a lot of these women will put out videos of their own responding to that. Most of the responses in this vein are along the lines of, I feel scared. I feel safer encountering a bear than a man. I feel frightened every time I leave my home. The key word here is that they feel frightened. They're not arguing about statistics of bear attacks or statistics of men being dangerous. In fact, when people bring up statistics, these women, they don't even care. They don't even answer it. They don't bring it up because it doesn't matter to them. That's not what they're arguing. They're not arguing that factually it's more safe. What they're saying is that they feel safer when a man isn't around. They feel scared when men are around. They feel threatened by men. And this feeling within them has nothing to do with statistics, and it has everything to do with ideology, specifically feminism. It's a product of what they've been taught. And the problem with how people have been arguing against this point is that they're bringing up statistics and data, but you can't argue against a feeling with statistics. But what do emotions have to do with ideology? Well, that's how you're going to understand their answer to this question. Our emotions come from our subconscious. If a man who's afraid of heights is up at the top of a skyscraper, freaking out, but you show up and say, hey, look at this graph, look at how safe it is, that's not going to make his fear magically go away. He might be able to look at that graph and say, oh yeah, I know consciously I'm safe, but I feel fear. That's because his fear isn't coming from his conscious mind, it's coming from his subconscious. It's a much more deep psychological phenomenon. Well, the exact same thing goes for ideological viewpoints, like feminism. When we're raised to believe and to see men as dangerous, that's how you're going to feel, not consciously, but subconsciously. It's going to be worked into the very way that you view men. And sure, you can express that viewpoint consciously. You can say, I think men are a threat, but that's not where that sits in your mind. That's not where it functions within you. It functions subconsciously. It's going to be how you interpret men without even thinking about it. That's just going to be how you see them. In fact, the whole point of a belief is to shape how you look at the world. The whole point of it is to help you understand it, to help you make sense of the world around you. But the problem is, when you learn a system of beliefs that don't do that, that actually distort how you view the world, this is incredibly dangerous and incredibly damaging to your life. It'll set you up so that you're working against yourself without you even knowing it, because it's functioning subconsciously. As far as you're concerned, you're seeing the world as it truly is. But what's really happening is that your interpretation of things has been twisted into something that it isn't. You'll be your own worst enemy, working against your ability to live your life and be happy. But you won't even know it because it's functioning on a subconscious level. When these women are being asked this question, they're not thinking, oh, if you look at this graph, men are a threat. They're expressing their view of men. And that view is men are a threat. And to express it, or to experience it even, within themselves is to experience fear of men. And the thing is, it wouldn't matter if every man on earth was good and wasn't a threat at all. And it wouldn't matter if you showed that data to them. It wouldn't change how they felt. The very way they view the world has been twisted by these ideas, by feminism. Their answer to this question is a feeling created by their beliefs. It has nothing to do with the facts, because their beliefs have nothing to do with the facts. Their beliefs are twisting the facts into something they're not. I think something that's a good example is, I bet you anything that a lot of the women who answered this question have boyfriends. And I bet you anything that not once did these women, when they answered this question, oh, I'd rather encounter bear, not one of them thought, oh, but at least my boyfriend isn't a threat. Or at least I'd feel safe in the forest with my boyfriend. Now, I'm not pointing this out to say that these women are necessarily vicious. I'm pointing this out to highlight how a set of ideas can twist the way you interpret the world to such an extent that you won't even be able to see a good thing if it's standing right in front of your face. That thought wouldn't even occur to them. If men are a threat, they're a threat. There is no such thing as a good man. There is no such thing as safety or love or romance or happiness. There's only the unending fear of that threat. That feeling of safety with their boyfriend wouldn't occur to them. They wouldn't feel it because the ideas have inculcated this sense of dread and fear around men. And that's all that matters. That's all they see. And that's why facts cannot penetrate that kind of deep-seated psychological conditioning. Because that's what bad ideas do for you, is they warp the way that you interpret the world to an extent that you just cannot properly interpret it anymore. So what we're getting out of these women's answers is not that men are more statistically dangerous, but rather this is how these women feel about the world, about themselves, and about their relationship with men. The way they feel has been shaped by their beliefs, and that is where the arguments should be focused, on whether or not these beliefs are correct or not. When these women are asked this question, they're not thinking about the bear. No one's really thinking about the bear. No one cares about the bear. The real question is, do you think men are basically good or evil? And their answer is revealing that they think men are basically evil, and thus are scared of them. And this premise comes from feminism. And really, it's no surprise that women answer this question this way, because feminism has permeated our culture now for quite some time. It's just inundated into everything around us. We're taught to see men's nature as evil. We're taught to see men being stronger and taller than them as a threat. We're taught to hate men's drive to create. We're taught to resent the fact that men are the initiators of sex. We're taught to believe that men have been keeping women down throughout all of human history. We're taught to believe that there's a war between men and women, and one has to win at the expense of the other. And the sum of all this is, we're taught to see men as evil. So is it really a surprise that these women are answering this question this way? Is it really a surprise that they feel like men are a threat? In a way, it's hard to blame them. They simply believe what they were raised to believe. I mean, where in our world are men admired? Where in our world are men shown as heroic, as good? Nowhere. In fact, people fight against the very idea of admiring men because when they hear this, the first thing they feel is admiring the thing that they're afraid of, this image of a brute, of a threat. They think of admiring a man like Andrew Tate.
I have so much money. What I want you to do is just be pleasant and smile and comply and obey.
A sad and hollow man who uses people and shows no respect for women. This is what they see as the nature of a man. A brute, a thoughtless savage. And this is why people reject the idea of seeing men in a positive light. So the cure to all these problems is to correct how we view men and to leave feminism in the ash heap of history. It's to take control of your life by taking charge of the ideas you let shape your worldview. It's time to see men not as evil, not as neutral, but as good. And to see the dynamic between men and women is something to celebrate. The very qualities our culture teaches you to hate within yourself are actually your virtues as a man. Strength, that drive to create, your role as being the sexual initiator. These aren't just neat qualities or neat features. These are actually necessary for human survival, and that's what makes them virtuous, as things to admire. Now keep in mind, one's view of men is what men ought to be, not what most men choose to be, but of what essentializes the nature of what it means to be a man. To see what humans or men or women ought to be doesn't mean to ignore what most people choose to be. It's not blind naivety, it's having a standard. Even if every man on earth was a violent criminal, it wouldn't change what men ought to be. The real irony of this situation is the reason the world is filled with so many violent men is precisely because feminism has obliterated any positive view of men. Men are raised with no positive role models. They're told that they're wicked by nature and that they're responsible for things they didn't even do. They're taught to hate themselves. They're taught to hate their nature. And self-hatred is at the root of all violent men. Having a healthy view of men is vitally important. It's our standard we use to guide our actions in life and our self-development. And more importantly, it's how you view yourself. If you're taught to hate yourself, to hate your nature, that's going to pollute everything in your life. Your whole life is diminished when you have a negative self-image. You won't work toward your goals because you won't see yourself as capable or even deserving of achieving them. You won't put in the effort to try and live a good life because you won't see yourself as being capable or worthy of doing that. But when you see yourself as fundamentally good, you're going to see yourself as capable and deserving to go after your goals. You're going to be energized and eager to live the best life that you can because you see it as basically good. I think the state of men today really proves this point. We have no positive role models, no positive idea of what it means to be a man, and because of it, most men are drifting, aimless, depressed, detached from themselves and from their lives. They feel like they can't achieve their dreams, or even that they don't deserve the good things that they have in life. What they're missing is an ideal of what it means to be a man. And sadly, that's exactly what our culture has obliterated. We need to hear the virtues of what it means to be a man and how we can embody those and what that looks like. We need to see that image. Our culture has betrayed us. It's raised us with ideas that set us against ourselves, that teach women to be in constant terror and teach men to hate themselves and hate their nature and not be driven to build good lives for themselves. Challenge feminism's idea that you are evil by nature. One of the best things you can start to do is to not take anything that you're taught as a given, especially things about human nature. That means all the things that we're taught about men and women, sex, love, work, how we think, the meaning of life, history, art, all of it. And the good news is that's exactly what our channel is about. So be sure to subscribe if you want to hear more and drop a like if you liked it. But remember, it's not enough to just address the conscious level of these ideas, to say, yeah, I'm a man and I guess that means I'm not evil. You have to address where these ideas live, and that is in your subconscious. They shape the way you view the world. And to address that, you're going to need to change some things in your life. This is why I highly recommend that you check out my guide on art. It's down in the description below. You can click the link and download it for free. It is a list of very good and healthy art that can show you healthy images of what it means to be a man or a woman and to see a world very different than our own. It's when you start flooding your life with art like this, art that shows you such a different view of life, that you really start to shape the way you subconsciously look at the world. Now that takes a lot of time, but this guide is designed to get you, get your foot in the door, to get you seeing this different world, and to get you seeing a better view of what it means to be a man or a woman, and to see that a healthy dynamic between men and women. So I highly recommend that you check it out. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you found it interesting, and maybe it illuminated some things for you about why women are answering this question in that way. If you have anything to say, be sure to leave a comment in the description below. Thanks so much. See you next time.